go ahead and put up Monty Python's and now for something entirely different.
Yeah. like there's like in philosophy, in my philosophy class, they brought up the whole fact that, like, okay, like I'm me, you're you, right?
Yeah.
I cannot prove that you exist out of my sight.
Right.
You can't prove that I exist out of your sight. You just have the assumption that I'm going to come back at some point. And I was like, holy shit, I cannot prove that someone's... Well, technically now, today...
No, you still can't.
Well, you could be FaceTiming with a geotagged and watch them on iMaps.
Yeah, but that still doesn't prove that they actually exist.
Because it's digits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like, holy crap.
Yeah, we can never... like...
It's like there could be a multiverse where you're an individual, I'm an individual, right? And we have infinite amounts of ourselves, in a multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be just the fact that we're all one thing, one entity, experiencing itself subjectively.
Whoa.
That's why our DNA and our life experiences change how we are, or how we interact with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
In time. Time isn't really linear.
Oh, because time doesn't truly exist.
So you can, it's like, I look at my wife, I'm like, oh my God, I'm having relations with myself.
But is that different from when you masturbate? That's relations with yourself. Is that different from people who sit there in the mirror and look at themselves and go, oh, I look good? That's a form of relations with yourself, right?
Well, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying like...
people who are narcissists, it's relations with, like...
coitus or sexual intercourse.
But even sex isn't real. Because at the molecular level, there's no actual contact. There's no real friction.
Oh, dude, don't.
No, so like...
I know, because the atoms are so far apart.
Yeah,
you're not really
touching. No, that's one of the things that still blows my mind is like...
still feels
when
good.
I touch the table...
feels good.
There's no table here. It doesn't really exist. But the way the light bounces off of this cluster of molecules or atoms, whatever you want to call them, and because I feel a pressure, which is just an electrical signal going back to my brain, tells me that there's something here.
But it's the type of bond that something has that tells you that something is there.
Yeah.
Like,
so did you notice a loss of tactile? Or did you get an increase by having only one hand now? Do things feel different? Like, is it kind of like more clear, more crisp, more sensitive in a way?
No, I don't think so.
Or did that dull?
It's more sensitive on my stomach, because of all the nerve damage and then the surgery they tried to correct and everything. And
if you
scratching here,
if you took away
right here,
all of your senses, what would happen?
You wouldn't know anything. You'd be what was that chick back in the day? She was deaf.
Oh, it wasn't Helen Keller, was it?
Yeah, deaf, blind, and dumb. But then she stopped the dumb part because she taught herself how to speak.
Yeah.
By feeling vibrations or whatever. It's crazy.
I think that the world would look completely different if you took away your senses.
Well, like I get what you're asking me. Like I lost the sensations that I would feel with the right hand. Is your body
left compensating now? Yeah.
No, but like I remember reading about a guy that he's a quadriplegic. Like he can't, from the waist down.
Yeah, he can't feel.
So, or I think he was in some accident. Well, he lost his penis.
Oh boy.
So, like he uses.
That's interesting.
He uses his thumb now. Like he'll jack off his thumb.
Huh.
To orgasm. Crazy.
That's weird. I mean, weird in the sense that it's unusual and unique, not like
because we don't understand it.
I can't relate to that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Crazy.
Yeah, I've looked at us as a species, just from like what we're capable of and what we're not. Like, we are a very good jack of trades build, right? Like,
Yeah.
We're not the best climbers, although some people are.
Some
we're
people
not-
are ridiculous.
We're not the best runners, although some people are. We're not the best swimmers, although some people are, right?
Well, see, I think everyone has an innate ability to do something
Unique.
unique, or not necessarily unique, but something good. Because there are a lot of good mountain climbers. There are a lot of good runners. There are a lot of good,
Right.
But when it comes to, I just thought of this morning because I had to go take my lawnmower to a guy to fix it, and he lives way out there.
Way out town.
So and he was a golf. So
Okay.
we started talking, but on the way back I started thinking about it and how like some people, like you'll see like what is it, the Ripley's, believe it or not, like some people
Oh, yeah,
have
some of those crazy abilities they have.
yeah, like that one guy, he's a samurai, not a samurai, but he's Japanese, and he can hit an airsoft BB and he can cut it in half
Right.
in air. It's like, okay, that guy perceives time differently than other people,
Yes.
and shit, freaking most CEOs, they get a lot of things done and accomplished, in one day.
Versus your average
Joe that does
Joe,
it.
yeah.
So they perceive time differently. They're able to get more done
Well,
in the same amount of time. than a
Even
normal
you and
person.
I experience time differently.
Yeah, it's ever since my TBI and everything, I think my perception of time is slower than it used to be. Because now
Yeah.
it's like I'll be editing a photo on Photoshop or doing a video, and it'll take all day. As opposed to, like, I know I could have got that shit done in like an hour before. Yeah. It sucks.
Yeah, so my point is, like, for as good as individuals can be, as a whole, we're not, like, from nature, when we look at, like, a cheetah, nobody's faster than a cheetah. When we look at monkeys, I don't think we could out-climb a monkey. Right? I think
No.
the monkey would climb faster than we could.
Well, monkey's stronger.
True, because they're,
bones.
like, they're
denser.
designed to do that.
Yeah.
So, like, when we look at why we were created and how we are existing is probably because of whatever this consciousness is, right?
Okay.
Would you say that was the dividing factor?
Yeah. Well, like.
Because we've seen other animals use tools,
Yeah. Well,
but they're not building skyscrapers.
True. And the thing is like what's funny is I think there's a lot of philosophical truths in the Bible,
Yeah.
in religions all around the world,
Right.
right? There are a lot of philosophical truths, and I think that the Genesis recount of how life I don't think the breath lived into the man and took a rib, made a
Yeah.
woman, but
Whammon.
whammons, whammons.
Whammons.
But like let there be light, kind of like the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
So
Excuse me.
I don't know. I what's funny is well, every time me and my wife start talking about life philosophy, and she's like, "All right, come on with your bullshit or whatever." She's like, "You believe in Christianity?" I'm like, "No, I don't. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of stuff in Christianity that
I feel is wrong.
well,
Like,
yeah.
the loopholes are
Well, I mean, Catholicism, I think, is
way different.
Catholicism, I think, is way different than
from
Christianity.
yeah.
From
but
what?
they're, I don't know why people like to group those two together because they're completely different.
Yeah,
Completely.
yeah, they are. Like Catholicism, almost what was it? Not mono, but
It's almost
Like-
a polytheistic
yeah,
religion.
polytheist. That's
Yeah.
with all the saints that they
Mhm.
pray to, and one of the saints just happens to be Jesus
Right.
or whatever.
And it's like, it's still ancestor worship that all the pagans used to do.
Yeah.
It's just
Well,
got
they just had
twist
the
on it.
Well, that's the thing is Constantine used it as a form of control
Yes.
because he saw how swayed
Hmm.
the public was by
With
it.
religion, yeah, because
So-
there was no TV yet. They couldn't control people by TV or
Yeah.
Facebook feeds.
Well, people generally couldn't read and write. They had to
Yeah.
go to the priests
to learn.
to learn about the religion, because
Yeah.
only the priests could read the Bible, and stuff like that, or the scriptures. And it took how many different councils to actually codify what was in the Bible?
Yeah, all 66 books that they chose.
I mean, there were so many different sects of Christianity going around at that time.
Not to mention like all the codices
Yeah,
that were discounted.
Yeah, I think there was I think Jesus was the philosopher king. Was like I think we've talked about
this before, yeah.
But I don't think it made it on the video. I think it cut out.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. So like I always talk about what is it? The cave allegory.
Yeah.
Plato's cave allegory, and Carl Sagan's Flatland.
Oh, I love those.
And I remember in college in my philosophy class, like I had never heard of Plato's cave allegory before, but I've watched Carl Sagan's Flatland, and so I'm going through philosophy class just like, oh wow, cool. Like I didn't know this stuff. I'm glad I'm in this class. This is really eye opening and all this stuff. And then one of the classes was on Plato's cave allegory, and when the teacher, at first he read it and people weren't really getting it because a lot of kids and even myself, I like more of a visual cue to.
Mm-hmm.
So he pulled up a video which was like a cartoon that explained the cave allegory, and I was like, oh shit! And after I was like, that's fucking Flatland, and teacher looked at me like, Flatland? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm like, Carl Sagan's Flatland. That's what that is. So I had him look it up, and he played it. And when as he's going through it, then the philosophy teacher is like,
yeah,
you're right. It's just a different way of saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you that don't know the cave allegory, is there's like four or five individuals chained up to a post. And
there's
they can't
fire in front of them.
Yeah, well, no. They can't look either way. They're chained up. They can't really. All they can see is a wall, and behind them is a fire.
That's right. It's behind them. Yeah.
And it's projecting
their shadows.
It's projecting shadows, almost like a puppet theater.
Yep.
And that's what they think is real life. So they think that's what it is. There's nothing more than what I've seen because I can't move my head, and all I can see is this.
Right.
And there's also like a walkway behind them for the people that are doing the puppets, and then around to the side there's a stairway that leads out of the cave.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how it goes in the allegory actually, but one of the guys gets free. He's just like, oh shit, he's able to move around, look, and he's able to see.
Because they develop their culture, their language based off of everything they see. And so when that guy does get free and he tries to explain what he sees,
like he gets free and he sees them, and he's like saying hey, and they're not listening. He goes out of the cave and he's like, holy shit, crap.
Yeah.
He sees that everything that he thought was real was just an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
He sees the people that are controlling the illusion, and he comes back and he tries to tell everybody what it is. Like, hey, you guys, this is not reality. Life is so much more than this. And I think, what does he die in the end? Like they kill him?
I think he dies. Yeah.
They end up killing him because he's
going against
what their reality. Like no. So right now, instead of me explaining what Flatland is, I'll let Carl Sagan do it because he does it better.
Discussing the large-scale structure of the cosmos, astronomers sometimes say that space is curved.
Space is curved.
That the universe is finite but unbounded. Whatever are they talking about? Let's imagine that we are perfectly flat. I mean absolutely flat. And that we live, appropriately enough, in a flatland. A land designed and named by Edwin Abbott, a Shakespearean scholar who lived in Victorian England. Everybody in flatland is, of course, exceptionally flat. We have squares, circles, triangles, and we all scurry about, and we can go into our houses and do our flat business. Now, we have width and length, but no height at all. Now, these little cutouts have some little height, but let's ignore that. Let's imagine that these are absolutely flat. That being the case, we know, us flatlanders, about left-right, and we know about forward-back, but we have never heard of up-down. Let us imagine that into flatland, hovering above it, comes a strange three-dimensional creature which, oddly enough, looks like an apple. And the three-dimensional creature sees an attractive, congenial-looking square, watches it enter its house, and decides in a gesture of interdimensional amity to say hello. Hello, says the three-dimensional creature. How are you? I am a visitor from the third dimension. Well, the poor square looks around his closed house, sees no one there, and what's more, has witnessed a greeting coming from his insides, a voice from within. He surely is getting a little worried about his sanity. The three-dimensional creature is unhappy about being considered a psychological aberration, and so he descends to actually enter flatland. Now, a three-dimensional creature exists in flatland only partially. Only a plane, a cross-section through him can be seen. So when the three-dimensional creature first reaches flatland, it's only the points of contact which can be seen, and we'll represent that by stamping the apple in this ink pad and placing that image in flatland. And as the apple were to descend through, slither by flatland, we would progressively see higher and higher slices, which we can represent by cutting the apple. So the square, as time goes on, sees a set of objects mysteriously appear from nowhere and inside a closed room and change their shape dramatically.
Get larger. And
Yeah.
His only conclusion could be that he's gone bonkers. Well, the apple might be a little annoyed at this conclusion, and so, not such a friendly gesture from dimension to dimension, makes a contact with the square from below and sends our flat creature fluttering and spinning above flatland. At first, the square has no idea what's happening. He's terribly confused. This is utterly outside his experience. And after a while, he comes to realize that he is seeing inside closed rooms in flatland. He is looking inside his fellow flat creatures. He is seeing flatland from a perspective no one has ever seen it before, to his knowledge. Getting into another dimension provides as an incidental benefit a kind of X-ray vision. Now our flat creature slowly descends to the surface, and his friends rush up to see him. From their point of view, he has mysteriously appeared from nowhere. He hasn't walked from somewhere else. He's come from some other place. They say, for heaven's sake, what's happened to you? And the poor square has to say, well, I was in some other mystic dimension called up. And they will pat him on his side and comfort him, or else they'll ask, well, show us, where is that third dimension? Point to it. And the poor square will be unable to comply. But maybe more interesting is the other direction in dimensionality. What about the fourth dimension? Now, to approach that, let's consider a cube. We can imagine a cube in the following way. You take a line segment and move it at right angles to itself in equal length. That makes a square. Move that square in equal length at right angles to itself, and you have a cube. Now, this cube, we understand, casts a shadow. And that shadow we recognize. It's, ordinarily drawn in third grade classrooms as two squares with their vertices connected. Now, if we look at the shadow of a three-dimensional object in two dimensions, we see that, in this case, not all the lines appear equal. Not all the angles are right angles. The three-dimensional object has not been perfectly represented in its projection in two dimensions, but that's part of the cost of losing a dimension in the projection. Now, let's take this three-dimensional cube and project it, carry it through a fourth physical dimension. Not that way, not that way, not that way, but at right angles to those three directions. I can't show you what direction that is, but imagine that there is a fourth physical dimension. In that case, we would generate a four-dimensional hypercube, which is also called a tesseract. I cannot show you a tesseract because I and you are trapped in three dimensions. But what I can show you is the shadow in three dimensions of a four-dimensional hypercube or tesseract. This is it. And you can see it's two nested cubes, all the vertices connected by lines. And now the real tesseract in four dimensions would have all the lines of equal length and all the angles right angles. That's not what we see here, but that's the penalty of projection. So you see, while we cannot imagine the world of four dimensions, we can certainly think about it perfectly well.
Yeah. So that's a sense the cave allegory, just different.
Slightly different.
Yeah. Maybe to the I mean, you can say Plato was working with the times.
Sure.
You know? And the analogies that he could use that people would understand. I mean, in our modern era, we can understand, three dimensions pretty easily. Your average person can.
Well, I think Plato, they were the originators of geometry, right?
Yeah.
So they had an understanding of three-dimensional space. They just might not have had all the words or a mass distribution center. I mean, they did have to wait for hologram to become a thing. Because that also plays into the very popular hologram theory right now.
Yeah.
So they have to wait for, I guess, technology to catch up sometimes. When movies first came out, they're just a series of pictures spun past a projector.
Yeah.
It wasn't until that point that people went, oh.
Yeah.
And
I actually haven't thought about that yet. The fact that it's like a movie is just projecting an image of something that happened.
It's a still shot.
Yeah.
Every frame is just one picture.
So that's what time in life is.
Yeah.
Just one picture.
It's just for us as the observers, it's a stack of our own shadows. You could think of it that way. That's why I'm a huge proponent of predeterminism.
Our eyes are projecting.
Yeah, we don't really have free will because the movie's already written, it's already been shot, it's already been filmed, and now we're just watching it.
Yeah, that's another thing with the whole timeline thing. It's already been shot, but it's all
possibilities.
All possibilities have already been laid out, and it's our job to jump if we can. Now, see
consciously
a lot of people think that, like Philip K. Dick, the guy that did Man in High Castle, Minority Report.
That was a very trippy movie, especially at a young age when I watched it.
What was that? What was that one with Harrison Ford and the
Blade Runners?
Blade Runner. He thinks that he's had glimpses through dreams of previous realities that we've had, and that's what his stories are. He just thinks that at some point there was a shift in the timeline, so instead of going on that one track, it would shift and go this way. But he's seeing the other possibilities.
Well, it's kind of like the whole Groundhog's Day, and now this Russian Dolls that I just started watching is how do we know when we transfer timelines, if we can call it that? Let's say that, so I come to option A or B. This life I took A, but let's say on the next life, or the next retelling of my story, right, reliving, I take B, but I already have a knowledge of A. Do I have that knowledge, or do I not have that knowledge?
I don't know. For me, I always take it when I lost the arm and everything, right? When I was a kid, I used to have night terrors or whatever as a kid, and I told myself that I would try to wake myself up. And every time that there was something that would happen in a dream that I didn't like me
wake up,
hurting or
change
falling,
the dream.
yeah, I would be like, no, I don't. I'm done with this dream. I'm gonna wake up. And sure enough, I'd wake up after being in the hospital and losing the arm, and everyone like, hey, you know,
Yeah, are you okay?
I'm like, yeah, you know what? I don't like this.
I'm just gonna wake up.
I want both my arms, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna wake up now. And I did that like several times because I was all in ICU and all fucked up and shit. And after I realized that, oh my god, I can't hit the
Can't reset. Yeah.
can't hit the respawn button right now. Like, what's going on?
But what if you were to wake up one day back in that point?
And this was all a dream.
Yeah.
Like my life to this point right now, where
Yeah.
I've had it. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of my life as anything else but this.
The thing I get from, I mean, I haven't seen all of Russian Dolls yet, but to me it seems like the same thing as Groundhog Day, and that concept of reliving the same thing over and over and over until you get it right, essentially, right? Which is,
Yeah.
generally speaking, become the best version of yourself. So what happens once you become the best version of yourself? Because I think isn't it Hinduism that believes in the reincarnation until you get to the best version of yourself, and then you stop
yeah.
reincarnating?
Yeah.
Well, what happens then?
I don't think it's Buddha.
Is it Buddhism?
Buddhism, I think.
I think I know it's one of the Eastern philosophies. So like
they
that,
both believe in reincarnation.
yeah, that kind of appeals to me, and that also is kind of scary right now for where I'm at in my life, because I'm actually pretty happy with who I am as a person,
Yeah.
and I feel like this might be the best version I've ever been. So that means maybe no more reincarnation for me, which kind of goes against my whole infinite lives. Maybe this is it, unless this is it for this consciousness, and then somebody else gets to
Yeah.
play Johnny.
Yeah.
Whoa. Maybe that's how there's infinite versions of me.
Next person in the simulation
Yeah.
comes in like, oh, my turn. All right.
We're just expansions of video games.
Yeah.
I'm the Johnny DLC. For $8.99, you can download Johnny and play him now.
There's the 3D rendered model.
Now with beard.
Now with beard. There's me with arm attachments.
And there's also one version of you with a cyborg arm, because you
Yeah.
turn like, dude, you have a very easy supervillain creation story.
But see,
You lose the arm and you become like Tyrannosaurus Rex man.
with a small arm.
Yeah.